Hello, cats and kittens. We are live. And today is a very special day because today I'll be interviewing none other than the Lamb himself. Yes, the Lamb. So this should be a fun little stream, and we'll talk, and he'll perform later. And maybe there might. Hold on, I gotta mute that. There we go. Okay, now we're good. And maybe, just maybe, there might be a duck race. Well, we'll see what the Lamb wants to do if he wants to do that. And I gotta get the link for StreamYard copied. Okay. Um, so we're gonna wait till we get some more people in here. I see Jimmy Nichols here. We got Bob. Hi, Bob, and Tudor Spliff. If I said that like Spiff or I don't know if I pronounced that right. Hey, Jen. Welcome, welcome. Jorgen will be joining us too, and he'll be helping out in the chat as well, Jen, with you and everybody else. So stomp those trolls out today. Let's keep them out of here. We don't want them. We don't want them lingering around. I'm gonna wait till other people get in here, and then we'll probably get the Lamb in. Here's Jorgen. Hey, Jorgen. Welcome, welcome. This is gonna be fun. Yes. This is gonna be good. So it's going to be a fun, interesting show today, and we're going to find all about how he became a musician and what bands he's played with in the past and everything. And it'll be fun. So I wore my Beatles Get Back hoodie today for him because I know he likes the Beatles too. So I figured, well, I threw that on. Yep, here we go, Lammy. Here's the link. I'm putting it at. Whoops, hold on. I got to go on the YouTube side to do that. Hold on, let me put the link out for you, and I'll bring you right on up. Hey, George. Nice to see you. Hey, Lisa. And there's the link. Should show up in a minute. Yeah, there's the link. Yeah, it's in the chat there, Lammy. Just click on that, and I'll bring you on up. And then I'm going to show you something really cool that I have. This is special. Hey, Mayhem, how you doing? Looks like I might have to mod a few people in here, but I'll wait till more people get in before I do that. We'll just wait and see. We're just waiting on the Lamb because I just sent the link out to him. So he should be up any minute now. Hey, Chris R., welcome in. Nice to see you. Rita, hello. Lovely Rita, Mita, May. Welcome. Okay, I've got to mod a few people here. So we will do, we have Chris R. add as moderator. Yes. Okay, we're going to do Sherry Lynn. Okay, let's get Sherry Lynn all set up here as a mod. Okay, standard moderator, yes. Mayhem. Okay, Mayhem. Oh, okay. All right, Sherry Lynn's one now. Okay, who else did I miss? Loons with Tunes. Okay, we're going to make you a moderator as well. There we go. All right. Here's the Lamb now. Sorry, I was just making a few people mods.
Hello.
Welcome in.
Thank you.
I was going to do a big intro for you, but
you can. I'll shut up and you can do it.
All right. Well, everybody, this gentleman next to me, he's one of my very best friends, next to everybody, and next to Dave and everybody else here in this chat. And I really look up to him, and we're really good friends. And he's gonna tell us his story today. And I'd like to introduce you to the one, the only, the legend that is the Lamb.
Hey.
Welcome, welcome.
Have you got clap sound effects? Do we get any of that?
No, we don't. You'd have to do that for me.
We'll do that as out.
There we go.
Cool.
Yes, I have to say I was a little nervous going in, but I always get nervous before my own streams. But I'm relaxed.
Yeah, me
'cause I
too.
know you. I'm comfortable with you, and we're gonna have a good time today. So I believe yesterday you had a question you want to ask me.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I mean, the James Bowie, Sinatra, Lenny White, Len's all been explained. But when were you knighted? I didn't realise you were a Sir. When did you receive your honours from the Queen?
Well, actually, I didn't.
Or was it the King?
I just put it on there because there's Sir Paul McCartney, there's Sir Ringo, and all that. So I figured, well, I just wanted to have a Sir.
Oh, well, fair enough then.
Just to make it fancy.
Yeah, okay.
So I got my special drink today,
What have we
my
got?
beer for the show. 13 barrels.
That's nice. What is that? I can't see.
It's
Nice, maybe.
an IPA. It's it's really good.
Very nice. I'm non-alcohol this evening because I got work.
Ah,
So I normally only have one beer during the stream, but I try not to drink in the week, you know.
yeah. Well,
Save all the drinking for the Friday night stream.
well, I figured I'd have a drink to make me feel a little relaxed. I get nervous with interviews, but I know I do them well. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. Oh, look, I've still got my donate thing.
Hey, Phil.
Anyone wants to donate, feel free.
Hold on. I gotta mod a few more people first, and then we'll start. Add as moderator. I think, William, because you're a good friend, you're going to be a managing moderator.
Hi, Wasaga. Does it sound all right, your end, by the way?
Oh yeah, you sound good. Ooh, nice. Cecilia? Oh, definitely you're going to be a mod. Okay. Have I got everybody? Let's see. Let's just make sure I got everybody, and then we'll start. Yep. Okay, I think I got everybody. Oh, wait. Did I get Rita H? Add as moderator. Okay, Rita H, you're a mod now. Okay, I think I got everybody. So, are you ready to tell your life story?
If it's that interesting.
I'm sure it'll be interesting. And before we actually start, at the end, the Lamb is gonna perform for us, and if you're all good little girls and boys, we might have a duck race if the Lamb is up for that, because I know you all want one.
Yeah, I'm a bit time restricted because it's late here. So after about 90 minutes, we'll have to stop.
Okay, sounds good.
Because it's like 10 o'clock then, everyone goes to bed.
We'll see
So if we want songs, I can get songs in early. Or we can just scatter them throughout, you know, like a sort of like we've planned it.
yeah. That would be cool. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. All right, so the first question of the day is, what year were you born, and where in this wonderful world were you born?
I was born in Hereford, which is on the border between England and Wales, and you get in 1983. And being the 80s, Phil Collins was the number one at the time, naturally. Yeah, in a very typical NHS hospital for free, which was wonderful.
You were born for free.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't happen so often these days. But we actually lived in a place called Monmouth. So the Hereford was the nearest hospital really capable of safely delivering a baby, and it was about 30 miles away. So I lived out in the countryside. And that's sort of where I grew up. But Monmouth's a lovely place. I highly recommend visiting.
Ah, nice. And how old were you? Were you young, like a little kid, when you first discovered you were falling in love with music?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was always I never sort of fell in love with music. I guess it was I don't know. It was one of those things that's always been there because I had when I was very well, my father left kind of before I was born. You see, so I was a single parent kid, only child, real weirdo. But my mum remarried when I was about 4 or 5, and she basically married a hippie. So he used to play guitar a lot around the house, you know, and basically just get stoned, watch Monty Python, and play Monty Python songs on the guitar. And he used to write his own songs, and I was far too young to understand anything in terms of even what he was really singing or the songwriting or anything like that. But I do remember just enjoying the performance and enjoying the guitar and the sound, you know, and everything as a sort of a little kid. So it kind of started there. But I didn't really get into music until, I suppose, it's when you're in your teens that it's sort of more formative, isn't it?
Yeah. So how did you discover you wanted to play guitar?
When did that really happen? Because I'd always, like, my grandfather had a guitar, so my grandfather sort of raised me quite a lot, and he bought it, and I've still got it upstairs. I could go and get it, right? It's really nice. He bought a guitar in 1966. He paid, I think, £35 to have a gentleman in Madrid, a proper luthier called Lorenzo Alvarez, made him a flamenco guitar. And he did learn flamenco, and he used to play in the 70s, but when I was little, he'd sort of given it up. So he couldn't play a lot, and he didn't want to play a lot, but this guitar was in this leather case on top of the wardrobe. And occasionally he used to get it down, and he could play little snippets of things that were just like amazing, you know, he must have remembered what he'd learned, but he'd forgotten so much, because it must have been 20 years since he'd played, that he really didn't have all the faculty to play anymore. But I used to sit, you know, that was another fun thing to do as a kid. I would get the guitar down, you know, and it was always this. And I've got the instrument now, you see. And it turns out that guitar, the guy that made that guitar, Lorenzo Alvarez, also made, he made a lot of acoustic guitars or flamenco guitars, but he also made the acoustic guitar that Eric Clapton uses on the song Tears in Heaven.
Oh, wow.
On like the MTV Unplugged, he played. That's Lorenzo Alvarez as well. And then my guitar's about 11 years older than Clapton's, but it's made from the same guy. So my grandfather obviously knew his shit when it came to picking a guitar maker.
Fascinating. Yeah.
But so that was the thing. It was like, a fun thing to do. But I really got into guitars when I got into my late teens. And I started hanging around in recording studios, and my close friends seemed to be in guitars as well. And then I got into the rock and roll and everything. That's when it really sort of took off as I would like to do this a lot, you know. So that was more when I was about 14 or 15.
So were you self-taught, or did you get lessons?
Yeah, I've never had any lessons. In fact, I played keyboards. I had a keyboard bought for me when I was about 14. And I used to play that and link it to the computer and stuff, which sounds easy now, but in the 90s, that was kind of quite schmick. And I did. I learned. I sort of taught myself very basic keyboard stuff, but I didn't like it as much as guitar. It wasn't as cool. I couldn't make the same noises that I liked on the records. But I mean, it was some musical foundation. But I never had a lesson on anything. No one's ever taught me anything. So it's all entirely self-taught. That's why I say I would never be a teacher, really. I don't like doing. People say you should do videos. You should show how to play. And it's like, no, because for a start, I'm probably playing it all wrong. And you learn loads of bad habits, you know. Yeah. And I can't quite express what I'm doing anyway, because this is the wonderful thing about music. Or I don't know. I suppose it doesn't apply to everyone, but anyone who's got a musical ear, or anyone that likes music, which is most people, is that you could take. You took the general population, a small percentage of them will be pretty good on instruments. But, you know, that is a minority of people that are, say someone's really good on one instrument. But if you take the amount of people that can just tell you if something sounds wrong or out of key or out of tune, that's the majority of people. And it's because pretty much all of us have got, because music is like a universal thing. It's not, you know, the theory makes it sound complicated. It's really not complicated at all. But it's just like, you know, it's like discovering how to swim. You know, if you're exposed to it from a really young age, you can just do it because it's a universal thing.
Yeah. And have you ever written your own material?
Yeah, I've written also, well, kind of. I've not got anything published, but when like the sort of work I used to do in studios going back 20 years is I was a guitarist, but I used to do a lot of production. So I was usually the guy behind the mixing desk running the session, and that's a place of where you have to be constantly creative. So really, you're writing all the time, but it's you don't. I don't think anyone really, well, maybe people do, but it'd be rarities even amongst the greats. No one just sits down and writes a song, you know what I mean? It's always, especially if in a band environment, like if you look at like the Beatles, when you look at the Get Back the documentary and things like that, you come with an idea, and it's the ideas that then you sort of find one that's good enough to build around, and you can turn it into a good song. But in terms of writing stuff, that could just be, oh, how about this chord? What have you tried this? Or maybe we could just do let's use a little of this sound, that you don't normally put. And that's all writing. So I've written lots and lots of stuff, but I've never sort of had my own, there's no The Lamb album, you know what I mean? Because I think it's a little bit, I don't know. For me, it would feel pretentious to record an album of my own in isolation and record it. I think it's much better when really, for me, recordings are better when, it's subjective, isn't it? It's subjective, but when it's like a band, and between the band, they create something, you know what I mean? And you try and capture that. That's pretty good. One guy with a copy of Pro Tools that sits down and plays each part into it and produces a song, I think is a little bit, I don't know, it's the only way you can do it, I guess. But for me, it would feel contrived and a bit pretentious. I'd rather, try and get a band together if I was going to do anything.
Yeah, but do you have enough material to make an album?
No, not at all. But you don't need material to make an album. You need a good band. That's the key. Because you can make material out of anything. And often the best stuff is the simplest stuff as well. I've done sessions. I remember doing this going back years ago in Swansea. There was a session with a band, and they had a very basic song, and they were like, hey, "We don't really know. It's quite simple. We don't know what to do with it." And I said, "Well, just make an anthem. Make a bit. Just take the two chords, but make a bit that everyone could just sing." Like a la la la, and I can't remember it now, but it had a sort of an anthem-y, just sort of like this thing that a bit like the end of Hey Jude, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they put it in there, and then that went on to be a massive thing for them whenever they played live, because people would pick up on it and everyone would sing the same bit, and it was so simple, but it created a whole song. But when you think of certain songs, when I think of, there's loads of them. All the hooks are really simple. The complicated stuff tends to go to jazz, which is away from me. Or you can go the other way, I guess, and go to the sort of the music concrete or the Stockhausen way of pushing things way out there. But real like rock, pop music, what the zeitgeisty stuff that sort of latches on is always really simple. And so in terms of enough material to make an album, if you had the right people around you, it's kind of easy. But that's the point. You need all the right people around you, the right environment, and an environment where people can throw in ideas, or someone comes in with a song, and stuff like that. I was in a band called the Mams years ago, which was great because the songwriter and the guitarist between them used to basically write the songs. And the songwriter was a writer for the BBC, so he's sort of very good at lyrical stuff and working with words. So he'd come in with an Ovation acoustic guitar, and he'd sing he'd say, well, this is the song, and he'd just teach us the parts. But the parts would be really simple. So it'd be like, I'd be playing the bass in that band, you see. So he'd tell me the chords. He'd say, so it's a C, then it's a G, then it's an A, and we go around that 3 times. And that's what you get told. So now you make the bass line, you see. So you're not going to play C, G, and A. If everyone plays that, it's crap. Everyone, it's just a dirge. So you have to say, well, okay, maybe I can do an octave thing, or, you figure out what the tempo is, what the feel is. Is it funky? Is it laid back? And then the drummer's got his own ideas. And that, when you melt all of that together, that's where a song is. And like I say, if you've got a good band or good people that can, music is like, it's in the air. You get that thing sometimes or I do, of like, when there's a storm coming and you can sort of, I can smell the electricity in the air, like lightning is going to strike. You can get like that with music when the right people are in the room. I did a gig with a gentleman called Chris Buck, which some people will know. He's from around here, he's Welsh. and he's in a band called Cardinal Black, and they're doing quite well at the moment in the UK. And I remember we did a gig at the Trinan, and you could just, there was just a moment at the end of a song where it's like, hey, this is a good soloing bit, and this could go on for a while, you know. And we traded licks and things back and forth, but you could tell it was coming because there were just good people in the room. And that's how the best albums are made. When you go to like top producers like Rick Rubin and all of these guys, it's what makes me laugh is I was watching one online and I felt a bit bad, but there's this young kind of what we're doing. So Rick Rubin, not I'm saying like I'm this old greybeard, but Rick Rubin as a producer is obviously a legend, and he's what I call a greybeard, you know, big old beard, and he knows all the secrets. And this young lad was interviewing him. He's like, you know, what microphone do you use and what EQ do you plug into that? And like Rick Rubin by the end was like, oh, just stop asking me these stupid questions. It doesn't matter what microphone I'm using. It doesn't. What matters is what I hear and what noises everyone makes and what we want to focus on and whether we want to include it or not. You know, it's way more that than it is technical. The technical stuff's for the engineers, and I enjoy that as well. But yeah, in terms of material, it's more about who rather than what you've got. That's why the Beatles worked, because you had Lennon and McCartney in the same room. Every single album, pretty much, that the Beatles did, they had no material going in because they used it all on the last album, and they had very little idea what they were going to do. You know, the first two albums were all the Hamburg stuff. They could play for like 4 hours on that stuff. But then when you get to Rubber Soul, they said going into Rubber Soul, they don't have a clue what to do. And they kind of just figured it out when they were there in the spot. White Album the same, Let It Be the same, Abbey Road kind of the same, except for the other side, the medley side. But, you know, it's that sort of thing, and that's how you do it. And that's why a lot of those albums, it's kind of why a lot of albums are done like in 2 weeks, and a lot of albums are done in 6 months, because they need that time together, you know.
And how did you, what was your, okay, I'm all tongue-tied here. What was the very first rock song you ever learned on guitar?
It would have been a Metallica song. I can tell you what, I could play it.
Right.
And the reason it was, I've caught something on the end of the line. Look at that. Caught around a blue chair. Come on. There we go.
Don't get yourself tangled there.
It's good. Here, the end of my lead's caught on the chair.
Oh my God.
Right, there we go. And the reason this was the first song I learned, like I say, so when I really first started, I was in this phase of doing a bit of keyboard and a bit of guitar, and the first thing I learned was Metallica, just because there was a band in the school that I was in that wanted to do a Metallica song, and they needed a second guitarist to play the other bit. And I was like, oh, it's an opportunity for me to get on a stage and play, you know, and do a proper gig. So it was like some shitty school concert, but it's that. Which is a sanitarium, it's called. It's on, I think it's on the Master of Puppets album. And then it gets into the... as Metallica does. But it was only two, really, it's just 2 bits of that. But the fingering of it is quite unusual. And what I sort of figured out afterwards is that was very similar to an exercise that my grandfather used to play on his acoustic guitar that I talked about. Because it's just sort of arpeggios. So I was already kind of preconditioned to doing it, and so they were quite happy with that. Like, oh, this kid's quite good, and I'm like, I'm not. That's the first thing I've ever played. But yes, that's what it was. And then I think I got the bug then.
And that's where you had a passion for this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I definitely went through a phase of that. That really came out when I discovered it all kicked off one day on the school bus when my best friend handed me a copy of Dark Side of the Moon. He'd already given me a few things before. He'd given me, he got me into Dire Straits. He gave me this cassette tape that his dad had, and that had Telegraph Road was the first track on it, and he used to tell me how awesome this song was, and I listened to it and young and impressionable. I was like, that is awesome. So it was a bit of Dire Straits. So I went on a mission of saving up pocket money to buy Dire Straits albums, and over the course of the year I think I got them all. But sort of halfway through that process he handed me Pink Floyd, and I was like, oh shit, now what do I buy? Because that was a mind-blowing experience, you know. I wish I could remember precisely what I was doing and what it was like the first time I heard Dark, but I can't remember. But Dark Side of the Moon, rather stereotypically, was a big, like, wow, this is awesome, an awesome thing to do, you know.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever get to play with Dire Straits?
No, I've got to see Mark Knopfler. I got this. So here's an interesting thing. Dire Straits split up in 96, 95, 96. They did a big old world tour in 94, 95. And then that was it. That was the end of the band. So I never got to see him. I was too young, really. Plus, the other thing is I lived out in the country, remember. The gigs were all... The gigs would all be in London and places, which is just insurmountable as a kid to get to London, you know what I mean, from where I lived. But I did get to see, so that they split up in like 95, 96. But a wonderful thing happened. I got given a ticket from a lovely lady and some friends of ours, and we went to see Mark Knopfler at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is a fairly standard round sort of small theatre. It's not a big place. Very traditional, very old theatre. And it was Mark Knopfler, and it was one of these things. It's for charity. We didn't know how much the tickets had cost, but now I've got a feeling they were incredibly expensive. We're talking 4 figures back in the 2000s. So we went to the show anyway. And we got there, and it was advertised as Mark Knopfler and Friends. And when you see that sort of thing, you think, oh, well, it's for charity, maybe. Well, you never know, do you, who might come out? He'd played with Eric Clapton, maybe Eric Clapton would be there. So anyway, it turned out to be, and the gig is on YouTube. You can watch the gig. It's one of the best gigs I've ever seen. It was incredible. Wow. The sound was amazing. There was only about, I don't know, maybe 2,000 people in there, small venue. So Mark had a band at the time called the Notting Hillbillies, so they did like an hour set, and then after the hour he introduced on stage the entire of Dire Straits. So he said John Illsley, who's the bass player from Dire Straits, and really him and John Illsley are Dire Straits. He said John Illsley is here, and the whole place just went crazy. And that electric, you remember what I was saying about the electrical feeling? It was like, oh my gosh, who was in this room? So in 2002, I think it was, we got to sit there and we were watching Dire Straits play, who hadn't played for like 8 years, and they never played again really officially. It was just like this one-off weekend. So it was amazing to be able to see. And he just did like 2 hours as a Dire Straits set, and it was incredible. It was Mark Knopfler at that time was at the peak of his powers and everything. But I mean, if you want to email me or whatever, I'll find the show for you. You can watch it.
Yes, I'd love to see
the sound's
that.
A little bit iffy because it's like I say it's iffy. It's actually pretty good because it's just a camera up in the stalls. So you get a lot of the atmosphere, but you can still hear what's going on. But you can kind of see how laid back it is and how good it is. It's on there. But I can't remember what you have to search for now because not a lot of people have found it.
Hi, Kate. Have you, when you were there, did you get to meet Mark Knopfler?
Yes, only briefly. So basically, after they were all out the front because it's not a big place, and because it was a charity thing, so there was like sort of schmoozing going on, you know, and a lot of people had made a lot of effort, unlike a scruffy lot. A lot of people have made a lot of effort. So Jimmy Nail was another person that they brought on, and he was there, and so they were around, and but you know, you don't want to make a fuss or be a hassle, so you don't be a dick about it. I've done.
Jimmy Nail, that sounds familiar.
He's a very what's that?
He was in the movie Evita with Madonna.
Right, he might have been. He had a short movie career in the sort of 80s and 90s. He's a sort of a northerner that was in a sitcom called Our Wiedersehen Pet, which was huge in the 80s about British workers sort of going over to Germany for economic reasons and stuff like that. It was a very funny show. A lot of people liked it, a bit before my time. But he's sort of become a big northern British celebrity because of that. But then his fame didn't seem to last. He was a little bit up himself, I think, to be honest. But yeah, Crocodile Shoes, that's right. He did that in that. He had a song with the "She's Lying." I don't want nobody else. She's lying. I can't remember what that's called. But yeah, but yeah, that was cool. But yeah, I mean, I have been. See, the thing is, I've through various bands and things done lots of festivals. When you do big festivals, you could be the first band on, and you'll get like 8 minutes or 15. Or, it's never 50, like 13 minutes or something. But there'll be big acts on, and you don't do your bit and then get kicked out of backstage. You can hang backstage all day. Oh, this is quite boring. Which means you do hang around with a lot of well-known music people. But the thing to do is not to do anything. You know what I mean? Because the last thing you want, especially for them, and when you're in their presence, you have to sort of be considerate of it as well. You can't just say, "Oh, there's a really nice place down the road, let's go," and bloody, because some of these people can't leave the protection around them, So really the thing is just to kind of be cool about it and not make a fuss. So I've been in the presence of many, many great musicians, but not actually gone up to them and go, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you," because it's just not the done thing.
Like guitar,
Exactly, yeah. Would you sign this? It's like once you come off stage, being on stage is such a high. When you step off the stage, you don't want it anymore. It's like post-orgasm. You don't want anyone to touch it. It's like, what I mean? Just let me try and come down now. That's why I know a lot of people get grumpy at stage doors and things like that. And it's like, well, when you're even semi-famous, you can spend another hour, 2 hours at a stage door signing and saying hello to people, and whatever point you cut that off, you feel like an asshole. So that's why a lot of people will just walk, and it's not that they're being offensive or they don't want to pay attention to the fan. They don't want that. You just want to end the night there and just get back and try and come down from it all. Really, it's that sort of thing, and there's a lot of that. Like Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush. Quite well known for he never spoke to fans. Rush had the frontmen would always go down and talk to the audience. They'd be outside chatting. Drummer never appeared, never did interviews, or very, very rarely did interviews. Basically, with very limited access to his dressing room and all the rest of it. A real closeted sort of guy. And the reason was he's incredibly shy. You think, oh, he's so up himself. He thinks he doesn't need to see people. And it's completely the opposite. He doesn't know what to say to people. Doesn't know what to do. Doesn't like the attention. Makes him nervous, and it's difficult. It's you got to be cool in those situations.
He's not shy on stage playing.
What's that?
But he's not shy on stage.
No, that's it. Yeah, no, you get
part of it all.
Yeah, exactly. And he writes all the songs, and Neil Peart, I mean, he came from behind the drums once, and that was on the last show that they ever did. Never left his drum kit. So it's I guess that's kind of shy. He's hiding behind. He's got a pretty big drum kit, Neil Peart, that he hides behind. But it's people deal with it in different ways.
This is only a 90-minute show. Some people are going to be asking questions. So here's the first question for you of the day.
Yes, tell us about the groupies. I couldn't possibly. There were. So I don't know what to say. There were groupies, and groupies do certain things that groupies do. But the reality is, there's very little time really for groupies. We weren't a big rock and roll band. We weren't known. We were, a working band. So you would be doing often 2 gigs a day on the weekends. You do like a gig in the afternoon and go somewhere in the evening. And the other thing is, we're the sort of band that has to load all our equipment into the bus at the end of the night. So when you finish that show, normally you finish late enough that a lot of the groupies that have got too drunk and have gone elsewhere anyway. So what's left is kind of dangerous ground. Not to be offensive, but if someone is still in the club after the band have finished and they're wanting to do things like what groupies do, they're not usually the best pick of the bunch. So you got to be careful that way. But you haven't got time, because what happens is you're like, well, everyone's got to load out. So you've got to load all the gear out. So a girl won't hang around then, or a guy or whatever. They won't hang around because it's like, it's not fun, and it's very once the lights come on and the band is done and everyone's putting their instruments away and there's people loading stuff into trucks, it suddenly becomes a very not fun environment. So it's not sort of conducive to groupie stuff. But the other thing is that you tend to move on a lot, so you could get in trouble. Now, I have done sort of thing like where you've met a groupie or whatever, and they say, okay, well, come with us after the show. We'll go to the hotel, And then what are you going to do? Well, then you're on the bus, and okay, so they get on a bus. Now you've got a problem because you've just essentially kidnapped some young lady from her hometown, and she doesn't know where she's going because we didn't know where we were going. So she could be in Liverpool the next day, like 400 miles away. And now how's she getting back? And and it's like it's really irresponsible.
She had money.
So there's not like loads and loads of groupies, but I mean big acts. I don't know what they get up to, but we weren't big enough to have people do everything for us that was like that you could take that lifestyle. You wouldn't want to come on our tour bus because it was for the first 3 years at least. The tour bus would be a 1970s British Leyland minibus, which people will know they'll seat maybe 16 people, but the seats are just like a hard slab of leather to sit on, and you've got like single ply windows that rattle in the frames and stuff like that. And I remember genuinely we'd do gigs in the winter where you just couldn't sleep on the bus because it was too cold. Because even on the seat, if you drift off, your face would just touch the window pane. Oh, it's like, jeez, it's so cold. You know what I mean? So it wasn't attractive. We weren't an attractive band. But I used to get other weird things happen. I used to get girls ring me up and stuff. Like I had some girls ring me up once in the middle of the night asking what I was wearing. I'm like, I'm in bed. I'm just in my pants. What do you want? And all this. I'm like, where did you get this number? They're just giggling away. And I've had strange, not stalkers, but people who think it's appropriate to come up to you and go, oh, hi, I saw you in this, when it's really not. Like I come back from a tour in London once, 3:00 in the morning, in a remote petrol station, filling my car up at an automatic petrol pump. So there's no one around. And right down the end of the car park, I can see a figure, and he starts shouting my name. He's like, Dad, like that. And I'm like, what? Jeez. And he starts running towards me, and he wants to tell me he saw me play a gig at some festival and how great it was. And I'm like, it's 3:00 in the morning where I am. I was expecting to get lynched. You know what I mean? I was expecting the mugging. I was getting my wallet ready.
Oh my God!
So it's sometimes it can be freaky, and it's it was such a small slice of what it's really like. For people of any major celebrity, it would have been horrible, to live like that. So, but yeah, I will talk at length. You see, your interviews you only need like 2 questions, and I can fill 90 minutes.
Well, you're doing pretty good. Okay, this is a question I thought about a few days ago, and I think it's a really good one. And I'm sure this has been asked to a lot of musicians in their lifetime, because I know Pinball Wizard is one of the most complicated, hardest intros to a song to play. And you know what? Elton John nailed it on piano. What would you say is the hardest guitar intro that you've ever tried to do? The hardest one?
I give up quite easily, so I'm not. It's tricky. See, I find Pinball Wizard is quite straightforward. The thing with Pinball Wizard, I know why that's considered hard because of the rhythm of it. So the rhythm, and but I think that fast strumming is what catches people off, because the strumming pattern, the strumming patterns is fine. Well, I did a thing when I was when I'd done like all my rock and roll stuff. I joined some acoustic bands that did like Celtic music and folk music and things like that. And that's where a lot of that comes from. A lot of Scottish rhythms and things like that. They were completely different, and they were really hard to learn. And I know I've gone slightly a tangent here, but I'll try and bring it back around to the question.
Okay.
But what I mean is, it's almost like a genre thing. Like you can go up your whole life playing blues, and the blues is easy. But then something that can be quite simple in another genre, just like a strumming pattern, like that is a very sort of acousticy, country, folky sort of rhythm, and people will struggle with that. But what's the hardest? The intro. I'm trying to think. Some of the.
Thanks, Mom.
This is a tough question because in terms of intro, there's loads of songs I can't play. You see, anything particularly difficult.
That is a good question too.
But in terms of intro and getting it right, a tough one is the harder ones aren't the ones that are technically. I don't think the ones that are technically difficult are that bad because you can learn something that's technically difficult. But what is difficult? Something that's rhythmically unusual can be difficult. So if you take something like "Sex on Fire" by the Kings of Leon, the start of that is I can't play that because it's not normal. You know, they try to trick it. Radiohead do it a lot. You sort of High Hopes by Pink Floyd does it. You hear the bell and you think it's on a beat and it's not. It's syncopated, but you don't hear it until the rest comes in. And there are things like that. I think those are quite hard intros to learn. There's intros that are unusual that I like that aren't hard to play. Like I did White Room yesterday. And what I love about White Room is the bit at the start is in 5/4. So that sort of that they count 5 beats for each chord, and I like that. Even though the fourth song's in 4/4, this is 5/4 for the start. But yeah, so the hardest ones are the ones that are rhythmically ambiguous. I think, like some of the. I'll tell you one that's really real good example. Is Drive My Car by the Beatles, because that lick at the start is so unusual. It's not in any sort of rhythm. It's like I don't know how they count it. I don't know how it's played, but it is a nightmare. So you could count that one. I'd possibly say that Drive My Car by the Beatles, that little lick that is played at the start, if you try and count it to be like just do a 1, 2, 3, 4 as it goes on to hit the drums on the 1, it's not right. It's really weird. So those are the hardest ones, and it's not technically hard, it's rhythmically hard, and that's trickier, because you have to have the beat in your head so sure that you have to be overwriting almost what your brain wants to hear. I don't know if anyone in the chat knows or you know a song by Radiohead called Videotape. It's a great song because if you listen to it, they never play the beat, so it sounds, and I can't know the chords, but it's got a piano sound. Right, I'll literally just do it with a C major. Right, there's a C. I'll do it minor because it's Radiohead. Right, so this isn't how the song goes, but this is the example. Okay, so if I play these chords just like this. Then you start to think 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And it's and on this song by Radiohead, it's not. The piano's playing the and. So if you when they're playing this, it sounds like a really downbeat song. But if you look at their body language, they're all doing this. And there's no beat going, and there's nothing fast in the song, but they're all doing this. And the reason is, in their head, they're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm not playing on the 1, I'm playing on a syncopated beat. Even though you hear the same thing, when you count it, it's different. And it's a genius song. If anyone wants to listen to Radiohead Videotape for something that is a real example of where the rhythm is ambiguous, but it's there, but you can't hear it. But it's kind of wild. But those are the hard ones, where you know if if it's a widdly bit that comes in on the 1, it's easy. If it comes on the 3 and of the bar, then it gets hard. You know, it's that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I can't do any vocals right now. But now, tell us how you started going around to all these different venues that you've been doing.
What when I was in bands?
Yeah.
Well, you get swept along with it, so I didn't have to arrange anything. Like, it wasn't involving me. I just joined the band, and there was a management, and they would say turn up at this time at this day. So we used to rehearse in a town called Chepstow, which is about 20 miles out of Monmouth. Again, it's on the border of Wales. And there was a place there called Hannah's Music. And it was actually run by a lady called Carol Mutlow. Hannah was her daughter who'd passed away, but she had the shop was named after her. And she was a lovely lady, and it's very unusual in that she ran these couple of music shops, and at the back she had a rehearsal room, and this is where the band used to rehearse. So how it would start with a band is like you arrange, everyone would arrange to go meet at a rehearsal room, and you just start to try and put a set together. But then the other guy in the band, his dad owned a string of shops, and he was like, oh, we'll get proper management. So they got management. And then I just got swept up in it. They were like, oh, so we've got a gig. You start off locally. So there's a gig down the pub. Basically, you do pub gigs. Or this is how it used to go. I don't know if it's like this anymore. But it'd be you do all the pubs in the town. And you just go in there and you'd have a crap demo tape and you say, oh, we're a band. And the pub would go, yeah, you can play on Saturday night or something like that, and they'd usually stick you out at the back or somewhere under the TV in front of the toilets where no one really cared. But you'd build a local following as a young band, and with our own material. People would come and your mates would come, and then you'd play the local area. And because we were kind of in the country, the local area is like 20-mile radius, because everyone would come into town for school. For example, the bus routes I used to take a 1-hour bus to get to school because that's sort of how rural it was. But it meant there's quite a large catchment of your friends and people who knew you in the school. So when you were playing, you'd play maybe in the Forest of Dean, and all the people from that area would come and they'd watch you, and you go in, and eventually your circle would get wider, because there'd be more lucrative gigs in the city centres. You go to Cardiff, or you play in Newport, and all of the towns would have certain bars. There was like TJ's in Newport that was quite well known because on the way up people used to play there. In London there was like the Dublin Castle and the 100 Club, these places. That's okay. Thanks for coming, Bob. Say hi to your mum. So you'd start small, and then eventually, they'd use money from those gigs to say, well, okay, now the goal was always London in the UK. You want to play in London. It's the capital city. That's where it's all happening. If you're going to get spotted, you'll get spotted in London. So what you try and do is you do home gigs, and then you get enough money together to get a bus and enough people to go down London, and maybe you can do 2 or 3 gigs in London, and then you come back home and you build up again, and eventually you start going around the country. You start going to the other cities. So you play, like I played the Cavern Club, and all of these places. You go to Liverpool, you go to Birmingham and play the Bull Ring, and so you widen out. But every now and again you come back to London and you do the Dublin Castle and the Camden Castle and the Half Moon at Putney, and there's a circuit that basically you can go on for a few days and then you come off again. So I'm looking for a drink.
Well, your vodka bottle's over there.
But so that's kind of how you get all the gigs.
Well, before
I never had to do the thing of going on the phone and calling up. It was all done for me, luckily. But I mean, I suppose that's how you do it. Someone does that, but an agent usually. You can have an agent as well. We have agents in this country, which are usually a nightmare to deal with. But they'll put you on their books, and then they'll just give you gigs, So
we have another question from the audience here, from Masika George.
Why Lamb has been named Lamb? The Lamb came from back early 2000s, one of those acoustic folk things. Basically, where I used to live, there was a pub opposite where I used to live, and I used to go there all the time. I was always in this pub, and my friend ran it, and we used to, because we were into music, we used to have open mic nights, and people from the university would come and do open mic, and we used to have open mic comedy and things like that. And a guy comes to an open mic night, one's older fella, again, another old hippie, and he got out his guitar, and he played all of this sort of Irish and folk music, and he was really good. He was one of those guys that was like the genuine article, the real deal, because he completely embodied what he was playing. It was all him. The attitude that he belted out Irish rebel songs with was his attitude when he came off the stage. So he was a real genuine guy, but he took a shine to me because I lived opposite. I said, well, I've got a guitar. Do you mind if I bring it over and we could jam a song or two? So we jammed, and then he was like, oh, come up to my house, and whenever we met up, and we played together. Well, I still see him occasionally now, but we played together on and off for about 5 years properly. And that band, we had a lot of musicians around us when we played. So there's a lot of friends who were musicians. There were other bands. There's a real good scene that we were in doing all this acoustic stuff. and so they would join in occasionally, and it was amazing. There used to be a hotel that the first time I went to, I thought it was a bust because my friend said, "Oh, we go to this hotel. It's not very well known, but it's really good for musicians, and it's hidden away in the suburb of Swansea." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I love an open mic." So we went to this open mic, and I walked in the place, and it was the smallest place you'd ever seen, like half the size of this. You walk in, and there was just a bar with a guy behind it, and I'm like, "Where the hell would you put a band or anything in here?" And I said, "Oh, here for the open mic." He says, "Oh, through the back." So as you go through the back of this hotel, and then there was this huge, like, sort of ballroom with no one in it except the PA down the end, and there was no one there. And it got to about 9 o'clock, and me being rural, I was like, "Well, this clearly isn't happening. It's 9 o'clock. The pub shuts in 2 hours." So I thought, not many people are here. We'll do a couple of songs, have a little rehearsal, whatever, and off we go. He said, no, just wait. And anyway, what we were waiting for, it was about 10:30, and then suddenly the place filled up, and it was all musicians, lots of students. There was some real good, like, various people would show up that, like, were sort of in the folk scene that were really well known. Like the Welsh, used to be a young lad who's a Welsh fiddle playing champion. He used to come up and play, lots of stuff. So there's all these really good musicians, lots of bluegrass musicians and things. And then it would go on till about 4 a.m. And it was one of the best open mics that no one knew about. It was secret for a reason, I think, basically. They didn't want too many people coming and spoiling it. So those little scratch bands that we used to put together, this hippie guy, he used to call himself Lazarus Carpenter. That was his stage name. God knows where he got that. And so when we got together, it would be Lazarus and the Lambs. The Lambs would be like his support band or whatever. But almost always it was just me and him. So that's what become Lazarus and the Lamb. And then, because I used to play a lot with other people, and he used to tell people about it. He said, "Oh yeah, I got this guitarist, we call him the Lamb," and so that's where it came from. So it was sort of given to me by that community. Really, they come up with the name because they named it the Lambs, and it was all the people that used to turn up to this open mic night in the middle of the night and do all sorts of naughty things. It's the first time I'd ever seen, because I was still quite young and impressionable, and I'd like go outside. Okay, so I'm going outside, and I think I'm being a bit naughty. I'm there smoking a joint like that, and I look over and I talk to this young lad, and his eyes would just be like, he's tripping balls on something I've never experienced. You could dive in there, you know what I mean? So there was all of these types. There used to be a guy, he must be dead by now. He was called Mick the Poet, and he would stand outside of this hotel and tell them, just preach this poetry that he'd written, which was hilarious. I can't remember half of it now. But he was completely wild and off the hook, and it's like all these sort of bohemian types used to show up. It was really cool. But that's where the name came out of, that scene. It was like our little Haight-Ashbury. It was a little summer of love that we had going. It was cool. That's where it came from, and it sort of stuck. I quite liked it after that.
Well, it's a great name to have. And what was the weirdest bar you've ever played in where everybody was nuts and kind of weird?
That one was pretty weird. It's weird in different ways. We played a gig in a real rough Valleys pub. I mean proper rough, and Valleys rough is like another breed of rough altogether. Where we played for about half an hour. We were doing acoustic stuff, and the place was quite G'd up. It was quite good because we were doing all the jigs and reels and things like that, and they were getting, the ladies were dancing. And then these young lads came in for God knows where, but they were all like I don't want to say bodybuilders because there's a certain amount of effort in that, but they were all steroid machines. They were all like huge necks and masses of water retention and tiny penises. Yeah, so they all came in, and then it was like, your girlfriend's a brother, and well, your girls, and then in like 30 seconds, it went from dancing to the band to full-on bar brawl. Everyone was fighting. There wasn't a person in the place. No one, this typical Valleys bloody sort of mentality. No one left. No one was like, "Oh, it's kicking off, let's get out of here." Everyone stood their ground and fought in that pub. There were people up on the pool table wielding chairs. I had this guitar with me. And my friend said, "What do we do? What do we do?" I said, "Well, you start fighting, you fucking dick, because what else are you going to do?" But we're okay. He was really worried. I said, "But you're okay. Put your fiddle down and grab your banjo. We're the ones, we've got weapons." So, because no one's going to question the band, you know what I mean? So I literally, there was a guy come towards the stage. Now, here's the thing. If you ever want to, a few stories, I'll use this guitar to explain.
Okay.
But Keith Richards, right? Someone asked Keith Richards, "Why do you play the Telecaster, Keith? Is it because of the sound? Is it because, you know, it's Leo friendly?" He said, "No, the reason I play the Telecaster, that hook there is absolutely perfect for getting a stage invader around the neck in there when they come on stage to attack you. And you don't want a face full of guitar because you've got metal, you've got wire, you've got, you know, bridges sticking out. This will take an eye out." But that's what you do. When it kicks off, you take your guitar off, and that is what you're now going to fight with. So I remember clocking this guy in the face because he came too close to the stage, just basically with that guitar like that, which bust the neck. The neck popped out here. A load of blood went up the thing like that. It was like something out of a bloody Tarantino flick. The neck popped out and it just splattered like that. And so he thankfully backed off. And it all calmed down. One of the PA speakers went over, I remember. And I remember after we packed up and I got home, we were like, right, let's assess, see if there's any damage. And what had happened, there was blood all over it that wasn't mine. And the neck was just sort of an angle like that away from the body. But, you know, no one got hurt in the band. But that was the wildest. It was so crazy because it just went off, like, you know, and that was obviously drugs. I think there was a lot of cocaine going around in this pub. Well, I think one of them got afterwards. Some guy, as a way of apology, came up to me with his car keys like that, and he had a big rail of cocaine on it. It was like, he's like, "Oh, you've had a rough night, mate. I'm sorry it all kicked off. Here, have a bang on that." And he like, I was like, "All right then." But yeah, so that was one of the craziest things. I mean, that's how you get your things like that with your teeth. I got a gap in my teeth because, you know, when the most dangerous thing is the microphone, because you've got a big heavy microphone on the stand. There's a lever force on it because they got a big thing that sticks out the back. Because essentially they're counterbalanced. You know, the reason a microphone has a tube that goes the other way is to offset the weight of the microphone itself, so it doesn't, you know, there's not so much force on it. But if someone hits the end of that, it transfers straight into your face. So the amount of times you get a busted lip, or something like that, or you chip a tooth or something, but just because someone will get unruly. But stage invaders are the worst because you never know what they're going to do. And it's scary because you don't know what you're going to do either, because you can't have someone on the stage. It's a dangerous environment anyway. But when someone's drunk and they go crazy and do stuff like that. But that I think that out of all, that's the one that sticks in my mind the most, is the craziest sort of crowd, because they were so up. They were so up for this gig. They were like, yeah, and obviously they were all up for it because they were all bloody high as a kite, weren't they? They were like Mike Tyson's bloody Hoover. So they. So they were all real buzz, but when these guys came in to cause trouble, they were like, "Trouble? Oh yeah, let's do that instead." And whoop, it just, you know, tinderboxed the whole place. Yeah. No. So, but that was fun. Must have been an amusing wedding. Yeah, I don't think it was a wedding. Funny that the pub closed down that night, and it's never opened since. It's just a boarded up husk of a building now. But yeah.
After that, I don't think anybody wanted to go back.
No, well, I guess not. Well, they get shut down once they have that much trouble. But yes, I've done. Yeah, someone said, "Have I done weddings?" I've done quite a lot of weddings and things. Yeah, weddings are always interesting because you never quite know what you're gonna come up to.
Hold on, Lammy. My sister wants to say hello to you. Just
hello, nice to meet you.
You have to put on headphones.
Of course. Hello, you can hear me now.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I just hear so much about you.
Oh, it's not all true.
Oh, really?
I swear.
It's all lies.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Depends what you said, you know.
No, he loves you. He's so honored to have you. He's been just vibrating, getting to interview you.
Yeah, I could turn that into a rude joke, but I won't. I'll be nice.
No, I just want to thank you for giving him this opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, we'll do it again. This doesn't have to be the only one. You know, it's I've got plenty of time. Really, I just make out that I'm busy so people don't hassle me. You know?
I get it.
Anyway, are you busy? Are you busy? Oh yes, always busy. What do you want?
Anyways, nice meeting you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. Thanks for coming on.
Take care.
Say hello, chat. Everyone in the chat.
Here's James. Bye, guys. Ooh.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Well, my sister wanted to meet you, so I had to do that.
Yes, she's a lovely lady. It's very nice to meet her.
Yeah. So now, before we get into how you got into YouTube, how did you get to meet Elsie and Terry Miles?
That came after the YouTube thing.
Okay, well, I guess you want to start with the YouTube and lead up to that maybe.
Yeah, well, the reason I got into the YouTube thing, and I regret not doing it a lot sooner because I wish I had. But during lockdown, when we had all the COVID stuff, basically the rule in the UK for a little while was don't go out. Basically, just stay in your house. And I'm quite lucky I was able to work from home because I do IT, so there's no problem with any of that. So we could literally just ride it out. So I started, so it was basically just, you're at a loose end, you're like, well, what do I do? I thought, well, what can I do? Well, I can play guitar, and all right, so maybe I'll do a channel. But what I started doing was I started going into other people that were live streaming. And there was a guy called Brent Hutchinson, and he was on quite regular. He used to do a live stream on a Thursday. And the little live stream group that used to attend that, we used to try and write songs. So people used to...
Yeah, George. Sorry.
That's okay. So people used to, pitch in chords, and people used to pitch in lyrics, and we try and put them together into certain songs. And one of these songs on this channel, I come up with a lick, which I don't know if I can remember now. How did it go? That was it. So I came up with a lick that went like this. I thought you could make that into a song, that's got a bit of a rhythmy sort of thing to it. But he was like, well, how are you playing that? And I was like, well, I'll have to make you a video because I don't know how to explain it. So my very first video is me explaining how to play that lick. So I did a video, and then I was like, so I thought, well, that was quite easy and quite fun to do. So I just started making more videos. And then it turned into doing live streams. Mainly because of my laziness. If I do a video, you've got to edit the video, you've got to plan, you've got to take different camera shots and different angles and all of that. I much prefer just being able to hit a button and just, there's my stuff, So I started doing the lives because of lockdown, really. And the first 20 or so were really shit. Because I didn't sing on them. I wasn't confident. I'd never done much singing or fronting of anything, so I didn't mind talking about stuff, and I used to improvise little jams, and I used to do this thing, I used to do that thing where I'd just play a chord on a keyboard, and sort of leave it there and improvise.
Got a Pink Floyd sound to it.
It does, because it's a G minor, which is the Shine On You Crazy Diamond one. I'll pick a different example so it doesn't sound so... So I used to do a lot of that, just sort of chords and improvising and stuff. And then it was at Christmas where I was like, well, I'll do a Christmas song. So I did Fairy Tale in New York on the guitar, and I thought, well, I'll sing it. It's one song. Yeah, and I know I could sing it because I used to do it before and live and things like that. So I did it, and then I got into the bug, really, of singing live and doing whole songs and putting a show together, and I just built up and up and up from there. Some point along the way, someone recommended Terry Miles to me, and I watched his show, and I think I sent him an email, and we just got chatting, but we got a lot of common ground because we're both old touring heads, you know what I mean? So, and he invited me down. I was like, yeah, we'll do it, I think he probably watched the live show enough times to get the idea that, yeah, there's a guy that I can, pull in comfortably, that we'll be able to jam. Like I say, it's that thing of when you get good people together, a lot of the fear kind of goes away because you've got enough confidence between you. When I go to Terry's, if I do, I've done 2 with Terry now. We don't have a plan. It's the same as this. We don't plan anything. We don't say what we're going to do. It goes along the lines of, do you want to do ELO? Yeah, we'll do some ELO. Yeah, shall we do some Rolling Stones? Yeah, we'll do some Rolling Stones. And that's about the plan. And then when I get there, he just goes off and does his show, and I'll fit in, in and around where I can and stuff like that. And so I think, like we had, like I said, we had a lot of common ground when we started talking, really, on what we'd done and touring and playing with people and stuff. So there's a certain class, or not class, but there's a certain type of musician. It'd be the same on here if I was chatting away to someone who's also a guitarist or they're a keyboard player or they're a drummer, and you watch them play and you can get an idea. You go, oh, that guy, I'd love to play with that guy. He's really good. I love playing with people who are worse than me and better than me. That's who I love the most, because the people that are worse than you, they're not worse than you. They're just you as you were in the past. You know what I mean? Because everyone was useless at one point. And it's nice because you can encourage and you can show things, you can mentor, you can try and help, and you can give people enthusiasm. When I did the Faisley thing, for Faisley, I got to keep saying that right. Did you see the last video of the Netherlands?
Yes, I did.
That I did?
I missed the first couple of minutes of it, but I'll have to go back and watch it because I still got to leave a comment on that too.
Right. Well, you saw the stand though that we were on with all the guitars around. I'd say this is the sort of thing that happened. I haven't got my keys. I haven't got them here. Oh, there's a lovely story basically, and I've got it out there. I won't get it. But what happened? There was a guy just sat down and just playing some guitar, and he was just doing a little bluesy thing. And so because he was playing blues, and I could figure, he's just but I'm just standing at the back, so I just start giving him a little backing track to play, and we have a little jam. And it's that thing again, he wasn't great, he didn't have a lot of facility, but it illuminates the whole room when two people start interacting that way. You can hear it, and everyone starts smiling immediately. They're like, "Oh, look at these two guys!" So we have that little jam, and you can do that with people who are worse than you, but you can do it with people who are better than you as well. And it's with Terry, he's that sort of class that he is so well rounded and so sort of professional, and he's done a lot of work with studios and production and things like that you can kind of it'll just work when you put the two together. But the nice thing was that with this guy at the Faisley stand, I stood and we had a little jam. And then this other guy comes up to me. I think they're all in the same family, I can't remember. And he just looks at me and he's probably my age, maybe a little bit older. But much more better built than me. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, I've got the blues." And I was like, and I could tell in the tone of his voice he was quite serious. He wasn't, I was like, what do you mean? I said, that sounds rough. What do you mean? And he said, well, I was in the military. This is a Norwegian, Netherlands, Dutch guys. And he said, we got mandatory military service or whatever. So he went into the military, and he was in the military with the Scottish unit, and they were doing some sort of operation against enemy fire. And there was a grenade thrown. And his best friend in the platoon jumped on the grenade, obviously went off and killed him, but saved the entire platoon. And he witnessed this, and he said, I saw all of this and I've got PTSD and I can't sleep. He says I get about 2 hours of sleep a night, maybe 3 if I'm lucky. And I can't work, and it is completely debilitating. And he says, so, I've got the blues, but I love the blues music, and he had this little young girl with him, and a lady with him, and he said, when this happened, because my head went, I lost my family, they all disowned him, so he met this other woman, and they weren't initially able to have children, so he had to go to Austria to have a special medical sort of procedure that meant they could have children. I didn't want to ask any questions of the details. And eventually they got the child, and it was this little girl, and she must have been 7 or 8, and she reminds me of my daughter. And she's sat down there and she's got the guitar, and she's playing what I was playing 2 minutes before to the old guy. You know what I mean? And she's looking at me and she's sort of learning off me. And I just remember, I just looked at her and I said, don't ever stop doing that, because the music will save it. It'll be with you all your life. And his dad was like, I love that she's into the music and everything. And I said, you got to look after your dad now, because he's not well. He's had a rough time, and it was just. And then the woman running back to me after like 5 minutes later. She said, "I've got to give you something," and she gave me this little light bulb. It's like only about that big little LED thing. And it's a key ring, and you just pull it, and it lights up, and it's really cool. It's on my keys. If I had them, I'd show you. And she said, "I've just got to give you something, because I want you to remember us." And if you look on the end of that last video, I've put in my thanks. I thanked all the people at Bax Music, and I thanked the little light bulb lady and the blue man, because those two people and this girl, it just, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that transcends the music. It's like a human moment. You know what I mean? It's crazy. And there she was. She was just going and playing the same blues that we were playing and all the rest of it and stuff. That's why I did. There's no film of me performing there, because the whole time I was talking to people. We were playing guitars, and it was just a really nice vibe. What was the question? Jeez, I'm so sorry. I think you had a question at the start of that. Have I answered it? I don't know.
Have you ever jammed with Elsie?
Oh, that's how I got to... Yeah, sorry. God, I got completely sidetracked with that. But it was a lovely story that I wanted to tell.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, so that's how I ended up with Terry Miles. We started chatting, and he invited me down and all the rest of it, yeah. And then Elsie... Well, Elsie's been there. We've played a little... I've never really jammed with Elsie, no. It's always been me and Terry. Elsie's a young artist. I'm an old man. But I mean, she's lovely, Elsie. I've met Elsie lots of times, and she's a wonderful lady. Really cool.
I just asked her point blank one day, one of her intimate acoustic little chats that she had. I'd be interested in interviewing you. Would you like that? I was surprised that she said yes right away. She said,
she's lovely. She's very nice and very, very welcoming and everything else. So. Yeah, when it does happen, I'm sure she'll be a very good guest.
And I'd really like to interview her, and I'm excited to interview her dad, big time. Terry Miles, if I had him on here right now, I'd be so nervous.
I wouldn't be nervous. I know you. He's the same as the rest of us. He's a lovely guy, is Terry. He's very funny. And also,
he loves his cider. I know that.
I certainly do. So he's from Birmingham. Obviously, he's originally from the West Country. Oh. And what's funny is that the more drunk he gets, the more he reverts to type. So as he gets drunker and he starts to slow down a bit, he starts to turn a little bit into Ozzy Osbourne. With the voice and everything. But he's lovely. He's a good laugh.
He had that at one of his live streams 2 weeks ago. He said, "But my throat's dry," and his wife was like, "Oh, is that it? Is that it?" And he was hammered, but he was playing like he was Jerry Lee Lewis and everything. And then all of a sudden, when he was finished the song, he fell into the piano. And he said, "The piano just fell on me. I guess it doesn't want me to play it anymore." But he had to edit that part out. But I saw it live.
Gosh, I've missed that. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that was classic. Lammy, you should have seen it. I was laughing so hard. But everyone, before we continue with the interview, I just want to say how I met the Lamb. I was in Elsie stream one day, and the Lamb was there. And I started talking with the Lamb, and then the next day, I was introducing my new wingman co-host, which was Dave. And guess who shows up in my chat and came up on camera for the first time? I didn't really know the Lamb that well. It was him. He came up on my stream, and we were talking away. It was the best day of my life. And this man is still in my life, and I'm glad to have him here today with us all. And it's not going to be the only time, because I loved supporting him. He loved supporting me.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back.
Though I can't give you donations. I'm always there.
You can. What you've got to do, you just got to go to lamblive.com/donate.
I don't have that kind of money.
Put in your credit card details. No, I'm joking.
I know.
I'm just being a dick for fun. But yeah, no, I mean, it amazes me. It blows my mind that people give money. This is. I mean, that's why I started doing the duck race. Really. Was because people started. I put it up. The reason I put it up there was just, I thought, well, why not? You know, if anyone ever does, I thought it'll be nice. I didn't expect that many people would. But after a little while, people did. And I was like, well, I've got to do something with that money that isn't put it in the bank and drink it. So that's when I thought, well, if I do the duck race every week, I've got to, you know, I can spend, we can give prizes away, and it's nice. The mugs thing is lovely. It really cheers me up when I get an email and someone's there with that, look at what I got. I'm like, yeah, this is stupid, isn't it? It's because it's just a stupid mug. But it's so cool to me that, you know, you can come up with an idea here, put it in a show, and then people will take ownership, really, is what's happening. The community of my channel take ownership of everything, you know what I mean? Including all my cock-ups. I mean, I love it. I can do a 2-hour show of high-intensity rock and roll music and singing, one little cock-up in the duck race, and that's all people talk about. it's great. But, yeah, that's why I'm amazed that people give money, and especially the way they do. But it's always nice.
Actually, I don't, Rita. I don't have a lamb mug yet. I haven't won the duck race yet.
You haven't won a duck race. You know what I have to do is I'll have to do you a special one-off mug. I've done a few now. I've done for Reese Potter. I did one for Dario, who's a friend. Email me your address in case I haven't got it. Email me your address and say, can I have a mug? And I'll make you a stupid mug.
Oh, thank you so much. Really? I'd appreciate that. But I still love being in the duck race because it's fun. It's an adrenaline rush. It's like it gets me all excited. It's like, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, you may still win the duck race and you'll have 2 mugs then. So, you know, it doesn't negate the excitement whatsoever. But
I appreciate that. I love one. Now,
and the droppings are going well now as well, I feel. After the little hiccup.
Like Monday, I didn't even see where the hell I was. I didn't know if I got down there or if I fell in the drink. I don't know what the hell happened to me.
I don't know. I can check. I can see how many points you got.
Yeah, because I am so confused. If you could figure that out.
You got 0 points, so you must have been in the water.
I don't know where I went.
Sometimes you can bounce off almost at the top. You know, it's hard to. I like to zoom in on people that are like teetering and things like that. So sometimes you miss a lot of action that goes on around it, but the computer keeps track of it all really well, so it's all right with the scoring. So yeah, the code it's quite complicated the way it got. I just kept plugging away at it, but I wanted, again, the reason for doing that was I wanted a game that was not like the duck race in that it involved everyone, but obviously you can't give everyone a prize because it does get expensive, but everyone has a stake in that game, so that if you show up, you know, the problem I had is last year, twice I did a guitar giveaway, and I just did it off the back of a duck race or something like that, and the person that won it fair and square, but they came in, they won the guitar, and we never saw them again, and it's like, I don't want to be giving away guitars to people. I want them to go to community people, you know what I mean? So I stopped the guitar giveaway. Because it was a silly waste of money, you know. I nothing against the people that won, because they very deservedly won, you know. But I really wanted it to go to people that were closer to the channel. So that's why I came up with the idea of the droppings. I always had in my head the idea of like a pachinko game, but I had to figure out how to do it. But that way, if you're I don't want to say loyal, but if you're a regular and you're part of the community, you know, and you're invested in it, then you get a much better chance. You get a higher score because you're back every week. So when it comes to the final, it will be the people that are sort of closest to the community that will have the best chance of winning the stuff, which is a much better way of doing it. So I think it's more fun. But yeah.
Oh yes, I have a question for you about how is it that you're able to play all the songs that you do on your streams and you don't get one single bit of copyright problem?
Dodging laser beams. So here's what happens. I get copyright claims every single time. But this is why I do it on YouTube. YouTube has quite extensive licensing arrangements with most major record labels. So if you take Sony, BMG, Warner Brothers, which is really just the 2 big ones, but you know, and those, the likes of those, they've all got agreements with YouTube that their material can be on there. So everything I play, the backing track is already on YouTube. So I've done my check. So if someone says to me, "Oh, can you play such and such a song?" then what I do is I search YouTube for the song. If it appears, then I'm okay because it's on there. So if it means it hasn't already been blocked. You see, if I search for a song and it doesn't come up, I can't do it because it's not on YouTube. So chances are then I would get a copyright claim. But if it's already on the platform, the only thing they can do is do a copyright claim that basically means the monetization goes to that person. So that's what happens. On my stream, if there were any monetization, which there isn't because no one really watches, but if a lot of people watch, the money would go to the artists of the songs that I play, because they're already in a licensing agreement with YouTube, and YouTube has permission for that song to be on their platform. Mm-hmm. So it's okay. Where people get in trouble, you see, what a lot of people do is they'll use Spotify to play something. The other thing is I never have singing. I always do the singing, which I think is a big part of it because my voice isn't that good and it doesn't sound like any of the people that I'm singing. So it's not a direct copy. If I just played the guitar parts and used the vocals from the original songs, then I might get in trouble because it's no longer a performance, it's a copy, you know what I mean? So I think I get away with it because I'm not copying. Nothing I do is a copy. It's its own thing, but also I'm only doing what YouTube already has the permission to do. So far, I've gotten kind of in trouble. The Dark Side of the Moon thing, where I got cut off for about 90 seconds. What that
was in the video because you had the camera focused right in on that thing.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the video because here's the thing: the entire video set and backing track I'd uploaded to YouTube a couple of days before to allow it to go through the copyright checking process. So I'd already pre-tested it all against YouTube. Basically, I gave them a copy of the video and said, can I use all of this? And they said, yes, it's fine. But what happens is when you're live, the stuff that's looking out for copyright material is entirely automatic. And sometimes it just gets it wrong. And that's all it was. It just got it wrong. Because after that live stream was done, if you watch it now, you see me get cut off. So it's on there. The bit where I get cut off, I don't get cut off on the replay. And on the replay, there's no copyright claim for that song. So it was never an issue of copyright. All it was the algorithm, just the bit that checks for copyright, made a mistake.
Did you edit that part? Because I watched where you went when you went down. Because I went back the next day and I watched the replay just to see exactly where you got cut off. Did you have to edit that or
no? So there's no editing there. Yeah. So because I got a thing come up straight away, and I know how it works. So all you do is you sit and wait. You stop the music, you wait, and after 90 seconds, it puts you back live again. So if you watch it back, there is no edit. It never actually got cut. It was just it just made a mistake, you know. That's which it does. But I've never got in any sort of copyright trouble.
Well, now I've got two-part question. The first part is, how do you get all those vintage commercials and the Thunderbirds at the beginning of your show?
I make them. They're all on you. It's all YouTube videos. Everything I do is already on YouTube. So what I do, the adverts, is I haven't done any new ones in a long time. I've got a stack of about 30, 25, 30 of those videos, maybe less. And all I do to make them is sit and watch old TV adverts for hours and hours and hours on YouTube, like literally hours and hours. And I worked out it would require me about an hour of watching adverts to come up with one joke, or about 1 minute of advert material, because you're watching the adverts and you think, oh, there's not much funny there. That's already funny, so I can't make it funny. And then you'll see when you're like, ooh, if I could just. So an example one is there's one advertising a Soda Stream. And in the advert, every time someone pushes the Soda Stream down, and a bottle of pop explodes. Like the idea is the Soda Stream is replacing all of this pop. So I edit it so every time they press the Soda Stream down, their house exploded. And so because I'm like, well, that would be funny if he pressed that and then boom, you know, it was a much bigger explosion than it should be. So then what you do is you go off looking for videos of house explosions. To cut in there, and I'm like, well, I need 3 because they do it 3 times. So you're like, well, I can't. If anyone was actually injured, I'm not using that. You know, I only want ones You know, you got to be kind of considerate. You can't if someone gets seriously hurt, I'm not using that video. So I managed to find 3 house explosions, and then you put it so the most crazy one is the last, and it becomes a joke. But you've got to find that advert first and get the idea, and then once you've done it, you're like, okay, so I've got that 30-second joke edit. You're then back to watching adverts again. And I probably watched every single old advert there is on YouTube. You know, it's just to get an idea of what could be funny. So they're really hard to make, but I just make them all myself.
I saw that I was crying. I was laughing so hard my ribs hurt. The guy
I played my favorite one yesterday, which is Bernard Cribbins, who is like a proper national treasure in the UK. He's because in the Railway Children and everything. But he's as he got older, he became a lot. He was on like children's TV a lot. He used to read bedtime stories and things like that. So he's a proper little old treasure guy. And I've got that advert where he's walking around the miniature Hornby Railway set. And obviously the train comes towards him, and in the advert he goes, stop, and the train stops. But I edited it in with this really gruesome deer that got exploded at the front of an intercity train. So it looks like, he's got a complete... I can play it back. It'll be here. It's this.
All right.
Hang on. Because it was this week's... Where is it?
Is that the one where the car's on the train tracks?
Yeah, here it is. So this... Fast forward a bit. So the martini thing is the thing I always do. Take all the old martini adverts and edit in people throwing up. Just because that's the funny thing with it. This is just my favorite.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Because he's such a lovely guy. Everyone loves Bernard Cribbins. And it's a cool advert. Look, there he is on a little kids' railway set. And I turn it into the most gruesome death. See, that's just editing, but
that's perfect.
That's the thing. It's so brutal that I love it. But that's the sort of
classic too. The guy sitting in a chair, he says, "I'm going to play a tune for you," and then the chair falls over, and he goes, "Fuck bloody hell!"
Yeah, so there's lots of that stuff. But again, that was so all it was. I was watching lots of adverts. I saw that advert and I thought, oh, well, if there's some footage of something getting run over, like that, it would just cut in perfectly. And that's what they all are. They're just funny edits. They're just stuff that I can cut together that makes you sort of takes you out of the advert and reframes it in a way that's quite funny.
So the second half of the question is, how did you decide that you wanted me to interview you?
I didn't. You decided, didn't you? You asked me, and I said yes. I think that's the way it went.
But then you said, "I'd like you to interview me after you saw my interview with Maita."
Yeah, well, I like to chat to all sorts of people. I don't know if you've noticed, but I like to talk a lot.
I did notice.
Yeah,
I was nervous at first, but then once I got into doing this with you, I'm having a blast. I'm having the best time. It's like I never went 10.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. I mean, it's easy. It's just 2 people having a chat. There's there's nothing sort of special about it. I mean, it is amazing. I do think like how incredible it is that I can sit here with what is, relatively privileged position to be in, but I can afford the equipment to broadcast this stupid show all around the world. I can edit it. I've got lights in there. 20 years ago, even this would be considered impossible. So I do, there is a bit inside me that when someone from the other side of the globe, which is where you are, says, "Do you want to come on and we'll have a chat?" It's like, yeah, because we're the first generation of people that's even possible. And then I know what you're like. I've seen your videos, so I already know, from chatting around what your personality is like. So I'm not going to say no because I know it'd be a nice evening. You know what I mean? If you're an arsehole, I probably would have made an excuse.
Well, I'm not a professional. I just love talking to musicians and talking about music in general.
That's it. Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, you think, when you're with your friends down the pub or whatever, what do you do really? It's only the same thing, isn't it? You just chat about what interests you and music and things like that. I hope you pay your TV license. I certainly do pay my TV license, Jimmy Nicol.
So before we conclude, I'd like to open the floor if anybody has any questions for the Lamb. I know we don't have time for a duck race, but we'll do another time on my stream. I promise.
We can fit one in.
So,
Should we do a duck race now? And then I won't do a song, but I can fit a duck race in.
all right.
I'm sure.
Well, it is late, so we'll do a duck race. And if you have any questions to ask him, you can ask while he's setting it up.
Yeah, fire away with a question.
But you have to do it manually, don't you?
I'm going to hack your stream. If there's a question while I'm doing the hacking. Yeah,
So everyone that
YouTube's not that
wants to be
secure.
In the duck race, please put a 1 in the chat so he knows who to put in. Well,
No, don't put a 1. Hang on, we'll do it properly. Hang on. Type the word.
Duck, go ahead, duck.
Type the word duck.
Type the word duck or 1, whatever works for you.
It's got to be the word duck.
Put in the word duck.
Let's see if that works. Oh, hang on. I've done it wrong. Here we go. Right.
I guess you'll have to put me in manually because I'm up here on the.
No, just type duck.
You want me to type duck in the chat?
Yeah, if you type duck.
Right, I will do that.
I'll switch over to the list of people that I've got. Hang on.
Okay, I need to put in duck. All right, it's in. There we go.
There we go. I know it's quite small if you can see it. At the moment. I've got Reese Potter, Chris R, Phil, Jürgen S, Jimmy Real Show, Patricia McCambridge, Rita H, Record Hand, William Paganucci, Michael S, Liam Tunes, Mark Dennison, Sir James Bowie, Cecilia, Hammond, Chris, Jerry Lynn, Saga George, I'm Hot Prog. If you haven't heard your name, stick duck in the chat. It seems to be working.
Oh, by the way, because my sister doesn't have a YouTube channel, can you add her in? Her name is Terry, Terri.
Yes, I can add her. I can add her in at the end. Yes.
Yeah, she wants to be in it too. Hey, Davey.
Did we have any questions while people are entering the duck race?
Anybody have questions? I like that.
Duck race music. That's blankety blank. These are all British references. How do you come up with the ideas for the Paul John stories? I steal them. It's a book. So what happens was those stories come from, we used to have a radio broadcaster and TV presenter called Terry Wogan, who early on in my stream, I used to do an impression of the old tell. Terry Wogan used to speak like this on the radio. Lovely voice, and everyone used to listen while they're on the way to work in the morning. So he used to be on the breakfast show, and again, he's another one, a bit like Bernie Cribbins, these broadcasters that are well regarded. So he used to tell these Janet and John stories, and he used to tell them about 8:30, 20 to 8, when people were doing the school run. And of course, what you'd have is the adults would be laughing at the innuendo, but the kids wouldn't have a clue because they're clean for broadcast. And he used to do this. Basically, I just stole that entire bit. So I bought the book on Amazon, and all the stories are in there. So I just pick a story and read it out. But they're so well written, there's they've all got little themes that go through them, and the same things sort of come back. That's right. The old tell. Forgive me, mother. But yeah, so I used to that's all it is. It's just a stolen bit. That's all. But yeah, that's where they come from. I think we've got everyone in. I'll take the names. Hang on. Take the names out of the list.
And George has a question for you too. How many guitars do you have?
Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, I think, at the moment. A couple aren't mine. A couple belong to Bax Music. I try not to keep too many.
Michael S. is asking, did my duck make it? I can't see.
Michael S. Yes. Yes, it did. It's a pretty good system, to be honest. It's never really failed me, the old... I'm just waiting for the duck race to load now.
Did you actually hack my stream?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Oh, I can't tell you.
Yeah, then after the stream, I'll send you my address for the mug. Thank you so much,
What's going
Landon.
on here?
You're a good friend. And I love all of you being here today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And you're always welcome here on my Sunday streams. I've never had this many people in my chat before.
Oops. Hang on. I had the link and I've lost it.
Are you in, Jen? Are you in the duck race? I hope you are. That's a good question, William. That is a very good question. William asks, is your duck race as reliable as your drop game? Thank you, George.
Sorry, what was the question? I cut out a bit there.
William says, is your duck race as reliable as your drop game?
More so because I didn't make the duck race, so the duck race is more reliable, if anything.
Okay, Jen's in, and I think you're in too, Dave.
Right.
Jimmy, she has a boyfriend. Don't go hitting on my sister.
So who did you want to add in that isn't with us? Did you say?
Her name is Terry. Terri.
Terri.
Yes.
Cool.
Because she doesn't have a YouTube channel, and I promised she wanted to be in the duck race. She asked me to put her in. Oh.
Well, here we go. Can you see the duck race? Because I can see the duck race.
Shit, I can't make it big. Oh, wait. Oh, crap. Wait. I can't make it big. Wait. Okay, hold on. Okay, I got it. There we go. Now we can see it.
Right, are we ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay, then here we go for random Sir James Bowie, Sinatra, Lionel, Lenny White, Lennon's duck race.
Yes.
On a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening here. You happy for me to do the commentary? Because I can't really hear what you're saying when I do it. The nice thing about a duck race is the first 2 minutes are complete nonsense, and basically only the last 10 seconds matter. So what you've got to do is go around the various ducks, say who they are and what they are. So that passes the time. And you try and make it sound entertaining. Like Strawberry Phil looking absolutely ridiculous up front at number 15. Jimmy Riddle Show's got a nice sort of mermaid thing going on. Chris R is just pink. William Paganucci is in the bibble. Hey, Bill, nice to see you with us. Loons with Tunes, I think, is the Vampire Duck. That's one of my favourites, the Vampire Duck, because you think, surely the evidence of a vampire duck is a popped rubber duck. You're not going to suck that much blood out. See what else we got? Sinatra, Lenny White. So you're green, I think, the green stripy one at the top there.
I like the whole...
Yeah, you may. Hey, if you win this, it will be the most serendipitous, beautiful thing that's happened in a duck race so far. But I don't know what's your chance, like 1 in 30.
But even if not, I know there's still I know there's still a mug coming my way. Either way.
30 seconds to go. Now it gets exciting. Mrs. I Am Hop Frog in the medical professional uniform, just making a bob to the front and then sitting back. Martin McGrath is Frosty the Snow Duck, which I'm not sure if turning the water underneath you into ice is an advantage or a disadvantage. So, like, this is when it actually matters.
Oh my God,
so who can we see?
Win again?
If Reese Potter is not allowed to win again because someone else is coming up. Bill Paganucci's won a few times. It could be him. It could be Kevin Godin. It could be Rita H.
Oh,
it's Bill.
Congrats, William. Yay.
To be fair, William is hot competition at the duck race. I think he's won a few times. There you go.
That's a good question, Jorgen. It really is. All right, let me make you small.
Shut up, Bill. It's quacking away, and then we can hear him. I just realised, could you even hear the backing music? Probably not.
No, I couldn't hear
No.
the backing music.
I didn't think of that really. The way I've got this set up, you'll have to just imagine that was there. He's quacking away though. I can assure you.
So
There we
I think
go.
we covered a lot of ground today, didn't we, Lammy?
We did.
I think you did a good. We did a good job. I hope I was a good interviewer.
So, well, that's for the chat to judge.
Oh, they love me. I know they do.
How could they not?
And I love you too, man. William probably has complete set for hosting at High Tea. I bet he does, Dave. I'm sure he does.
Yeah, he seems to have the knack of the duck race.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I really appreciate you being here, Lammy, for doing this. And I'm hoping one day I will have Terry Miles up here and I'll be interviewing him. That will be the most amazing moment of my life, too. I'll be a little more nervous because I don't really know him as well as I know you guys or you being up here because you've been here a couple of times. So I've gotten to know you over the past couple of months. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mark Dennison, Jorgen, Jimmy Riddle, Wasega George, everybody. And thank you, Lam, for being here and being an amazing person that you are.
That's my pleasure.
And thank you for the mug. I really appreciate that. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, just send me an email.
Oh, I will. After I go tell my mom first. Of course, I'm excited about that. And it's going to be great. Now, one more question before we go. How did you come up with the sex butter?
I don't know. Well, I think it came from this guitar because when I bought this, obviously it was quite a big deal for me getting this because it wasn't a cheap guitar, and I unboxed it and everything. And I was like, oh, well the fun is we'll ask people what shall we call it, and there were some names suggested, and at the time, the name Jerry Hattrick seemed popular, so I was gonna call it that. But after the name of the color, because obviously you can see it's a yellow color, that color got named Sex Butter because it's actually, I mean, it's a well-known Fender color. You can see better on. Oh, I was going to show you on the other camera, but it's fallen off. Yeah, do it this way instead. Can we? Hang on. Oh, so this color of guitar. It's called butterscotch. This is a very classic Telecaster color.
Okay.
This is one of the first colors of Telecasters that Leo Fender made. So way back in 1951-52, they were like this color with a white. They'd have a white pick guard, and then these are called black guards, which I always think look sexier to have the black pick guard. Well, that was like later in the 1950s with this style. But this was always called like a butterscotch blonde. They used to call it. It's actually slightly see-through. You can see the wood grain through it. So I think I mentioned that it was called butterscotch, and then some arsehole in the chat just said, it would sex butter is what it is. And I used to do that thing where I'd put on like the jazz music, the classy jazz backing track, and play all the wah, and was it on? And all the porno music, and it just sort of developed from that. But that's what I like. You see, it just takes one person to say something funny, and it can become a whole thing. Like none of the things I do, like the library thing that I do, where I tell a story. It's just an idea that I had one day, or someone suggested something. Top of the comments was a suggestion for Katrina Dennison, I think. And I can't remember how it came about. I can't remember what we were talking about, but I'm sure she was like, yeah, you should do a top 10 comments or something. I was like, that's a great idea. And then I stole the old Top of the Pops music that we used to have. A lot of my references, you see, are very British. A lot of the adverts are British and things like that. So a lot of the jokes might fall a bit flat, or you might not just notice. But like the backing music I use for Top of the Comments is actually what they used to use for Top of the Pops in the 90s, on the TV, the sort of chart rundown. But I think that came from Katrina Dennison's idea. So I just did it one day. And I like that thing. And I like the other thing I really enjoy is playing with the format a bit. So like having different endings and outros and intros, and you know, like the library, sometimes I'll do it differently. It was funny when we had, at some point I had a meth lab, and then the meth lab exploded, and
That
it's
was
like
my favorite.
you know. And then, but I've been in the pub at Christmas. I had I don't know if you noticed, but I had a what should we say, a Dutch coffee shop with my background. There's all the jar of cannabis on the front counter, and I just like that, you know, like with the endings. Even yesterday with the duck race, putting that Japanese advert in at the end.
Oh, that was hilarious.
The rubber duckzilla and all of this. I love all of that because it's so stupid, but it's funny, you know, and all the playing in the silly sound effects and anything that's stupid, I get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Well, because we couldn't have a song today, but on Friday, would you play my favorite song, "The Walk of Life" by Dire Straits?
Yeah, should we do? Well, I'll do that now.
Really?
Should we do it now to exit? Well, it's Dire Straits. I haven't got to sing that too loud.
All right.
I've got like.
I love that. That's one of my favorite songs.
I think I've got like 4% battery on the iPad. 5%. That should be enough. I've got to play it through this. You see, when I do interviews, I have to wire the room slightly differently.
Ah.
Otherwise, what you say will come back through the system, and we don't want that. So.
Oh, definitely a great ending, George. I had fun today.
Let's see.
I've had more people in my chat than I've ever had before.
Put that there. Right then. Let's fire up the disco machine, shall we?
He sure does. I haven't even looked at the likes that I've got yet.
Where's bit of smoke. Makes it all better.
Oh my god, 19, that's the highest likes I've ever had. Oh, let me make you big for this.
Can you hear it okay?
Yep.
Good. sillies, goldies, bebop and lula, baby, what I say. Here come Johnny singing, I got a woman down in the tunnel trying to make it pay. You got the action, you got the motion, yeah, the boy can play. Dedication, you got devotion, and turning on the nighttime and the day. After all the violence and the talk, the song and all the trouble and the strife, and you do the walk, you do the walk of life, yeah, you do the walk of life.
And now I am going to do it. A standing ovation. There you go, Lammy. Yeah!
Thank you for my standing ovation.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, everybody. I want to thank you all for being here today. And I want to thank you, Lammy, for doing this with me. We went a little longer than expected, but that's okay.
That's okay. It's all right when you're having fun.
Oh, yes, definitely. And
Oh, look at all the lovely people in the chat.
Which is really amazing. So I want to thank you all for being here. And I'll see you all on Sunday for my regular stream. Hopefully the power doesn't go off this time like it did the last Sunday. But thank you. And you're all welcome here, everybody. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And later I will email you my address for the mug and all the stuff.
Cool. I might even send you. What? Was it your sister that was in earlier?
What?
Who was in earlier that said hello to me?
Oh, that was my sister Terry.
Your sister. Let me know her T-shirt size. I'll send her a T-shirt.
All right, I will do that.
Along with your mug.
All right, thank you so much.
Because then you both got something, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Well, thank you so much. Well, as I say on my channel, Beatles forever. See you on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.
Peace, Slam out.
Bye, Lammy.
Bye.
Bye.